Although colour is pervasive in our environment, our understanding of how colour affects human psychology is somewhat limited. In 2012, Elliott and Meyer developed colour in context theory to explain how colour influences what we think, how we feel, and what we do. They proposed 6 guiding principles for colour in context theory. The first principle is that colour carries meaning. While you might have a favourite colour and appreciate it for its aesthetic value, colour also has functional value. It can convey meaning depending on its hue, lightness, and chroma. The second principle is that seeing colour influences how we think, feel, and behave. Seeing a particular colour stimulates an appraisal process where you decide whether a colour is hospitable or hostile. Hospitable stimuli result in positive emotions and encourage approach behaviours, whereas hostile stimuli result in negative emotions and encourage avoidant behaviour. The third principle of colour in context theory states that we process colour automatically far outside our conscious awareness. We do not actively perceive colour. The fourth principle is that colour meanings are both learned and biologically based. For example, from a young age, we learnt that pink is a feminine colour, or green means go, both of which are social constructs. We also learnt that red fruit might be poisonous or might be ripe, which is an evolutionary adaptation. These biological and learned meanings combine to help us interpret colour. The fifth principle states that the associations between a colour, what we think, how we feel, and what we do are reciprocal. This means that your visual perception of a colour will be influenced by your psychological state at the time you view it. The sixth and final principle states that meaning associated with a colour is context specific. So how do these principles help us shape emergency warning messages? During emergencies, we issue warnings to encourage community members to take protective action. In the context of an emergency, the colour red in particular would signal significant danger to a reader. Red warnings are also perceived to be more readable than those presented in achromatic colours, such as black, white, or grey. As a result, warnings that use the colour red encourage risk assessment and likely some protective behaviour aimed at avoiding the hazard. Orange and yellow warnings also commonly signal an elevated risk that needs to be considered. Overall, colour becomes a contextual cue that indicates a hazard presents a risk and that some protective action might be appropriate to mitigate that risk.